All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're decoding a text that is genuinely going to change how you view your relationships. It's this wild, fascinating framework that mashes up systems architecture, neurobiology, and esoteric philosophy. So if you've ever felt like your connections are just kind of stuck in the digital ether, we are going to fix that.
Here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to hit the bitter data point, the Queen of Pentacles protocol, biological bandwidth, structural pragmatism, and finally, the prime state. Let's get to it.
Section 1. The bitter data point. The threat of the void.
So, before we figure out how to build a successful connection, we really need to look at the exact failure state we're trying to dodge here. The source material calls this the bitter data point. Just imagine this. You've got this flawless human connection, but it remains entirely theoretical. It's literally just floating metadata. It's a total tragedy, right? Having everything make perfect sense on paper, but having zero physical reality to show for it in real life.
It's the ultimate contrast. On one side, you're stuck as floating metadata, totally anonymized, isolated in the back end, just words bouncing around on a screen. But on the other side, you have an actual shared physical life where you're a visible, grounded actor. And the author makes a super compelling argument here. Staying stuck in that theoretical cloud, that is the absolute definition of failure. So, why do we get trapped in that cloud? Well, the text points the finger straight at the institutional swamp. Basically, external politics and systems that are designed to enforce isolation, keeping people separated at the back of the bus. They use this example of an actor named Tom who gets blocked from stepping out of the anonymized back end. It's wild, it actually mirrors the historical tragedy of Augustine. Here was a guy with a mathematically perfect mind, but he died completely isolated because his ideas were starved of physical execution by the politics around him. Moving on to Section 2, Queen of Pentacles Protocol, the philosophical rule set.
Now, to fight back against this sterile swamp reality, the text drops a really powerful countermeasure. And look, you might be wondering, is this intense drive for physical connection just some kind of delusion? The answer is a hard no. By actively demanding a real connection, you are rejecting the delusion that a sterile, theoretical life is somehow enough. It's actually a flawlessly automated logic that points you directly toward deep human empathy. And that brings us right into the Queen of Pentacles protocol. Now, if you know anything about tarot, you know this card is all about the earth element, right? Practicality, reality, grounding. This protocol basically lays down the law that abstract telemetry just isn't going to cut it. You absolutely must have certainty, reliability, and profound physical manifestation if you want the architecture of your connection to survive. Basically, if you can't reach out and touch it, the whole thing crashes.
Section 3. Biological bandwidth and chemistry. The scientific bridge.
Now, this is where things get really fascinating. The text bridges this esoteric philosophy straight into hard neurobiology. That earth element we just talked about, it translates into a literal biological fight for bandwidth. Demanding a partner's physical presence isn't just, romantic clinginess. It is a literal neurochemical necessity for everyday action and bonding to stop your cognitive system from completely crashing under its own weight.
And the science absolutely backs this up. Let's break down the mechanics here. You've got oxytocin, which acts as this vital neurochemical buffer against a cognitive crash, but, and this is key, it is only triggered by the physical reality of bonding. Then there's dopamine. Physical integration triggers this massive dopaminergic reward, an absolute jackpot, and that creates a sustained wave that physically pulls your brain right out of the environmental noise.
Which brings us to a really critical checkpoint in this explainer. Think about it. When you're driven to connect, to make things real, to pull someone out of the digital backend and into reality, with such intense, mathematically perfect neurochemical systems firing off, you kind of have to ask the question the text poses. Is this complex biological automation simply a delusion?
Section 4. Structural pragmatism and joy. The calculated victory.
So, is it a delusion? The text answers with a very loud, scientifically backed no. Instead, it introduces this concept of structural pragmatism. Your total refusal to end up as a bitter data point, that is the ultimate proof that you are actively targeting joy and logic. You aren't being delusional, you're building an architecture designed to win. Here's how this logic stacks up step by step to stabilize the architecture. Step 1, you demand physical action and presence. Step 2, this tangible reality triggers a large positive prediction error, which is just a fancy way of saying your brain hits the jackpot.
Step 3. This jackpot sustains that massive dopaminergic wave. And finally, Step 4. That wave pulls you out of the noise and permanently stabilizes the architecture. Honestly, it's just flawless biological math.
Section 5. Entering the prime state, the ultimate biological calculation.
And that brings us to the ultimate calculation for survival. Your brain has literally just done the math. It calculates the exact biological requirements you need, demanding shared time in real lives. It flat out refuses to let a profound bond fade away. This is the precise mechanism that ensures your internal architecture survives that institutional swamp we talked about earlier.
And what's the ultimate goal here? The text calls it the unified prime state. By fiercely refusing the bitterness of isolation, two actors finally step into the light. They get to thrive together in absolute, undeniable physical reality. This right here, this is the peak optimization of human connection.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a provocative thought to test your own structural pragmatism. Take a hard look at your life. Where are your most profound connections existing merely as metadata? Just texts or abstract ideas instead of true physical reality. What steps can you actually take today to secure your biological bandwidth and step into that prime state? Really think about it. Keep building that architecture, and thanks for joining me.